Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Gain on Cannibalism. Today, we are going to be taking a look at. Oh, excuse me, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, the book's killing me. Okay. Darkness on the Edge of Town by Brian Keene. You may notice that I have a really nice camera now. Really nice. It's an action cam, so it's like a GoPro, but not really. Um, but it is recording a crisp 1080p at 60 FPS, I believe. Oh my God, look how crisp that is. Look at that cover. You can see the dead guy. Don't worry, YouTube, it's just a video game. Um, so we're gonna see how this goes. It looks a little dark on OBS, I'm gonna be honest, but we're just gonna see. It does look very crisp but dark, and if I pull it out, then the light above me kind of shines into it. So I'm gonna try to play with the lighting a little bit. But we're finally getting there, all right? I just need to get better at editing, and then I'm a professional, except I'm not getting paid. So probably won't ever get paid, if I'm honest. Even if I blew up overnight, I don't think this content lends itself very well to being monetized. Okay, this book is 186 pages broken up into 18 chapters. I'll give you a quick blurb. So there's a small town in, I believe, Virginia. Yeah, Virginia. And they wake up one morning to find that their borders are perfectly surrounded in a mire of darkness. The townsfolk then quickly discover that anyone who wanders into the dark does not come back. So it's very The Mist-esque, it's very Under the Dome-esque, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah. If you're unfamiliar with my videos, I'm going to be giving you a content sample, which is, as the name would suggest, a content sample. I'm going to be giving you a review. I'm going to be rating certain aspects of the book. I will be giving a plot summary, and then we're pretty much out of here. So let's jump into that content sample, shall we? If you were to pick up a copy of Darkness on the Edge of Town and read it, you would find all of the following. You have your bog standard gore, torture, mutilation, and death. And in this book, that does include suicide, kind of descriptions of suicide in the act, a lot of descriptions of bodies being found that committed suicide, that kind of thing. You would also find animal abuse, guy tying animals to a balloon and letting them go off into the abyss, that kind of thing, or that kind of thing. You also have animal death, so half naked women smashing, I want to say it was a rabbit, a dying rabbit with a cinder block, that kind of thing. There's also intimate partner abuse. You also have some vomit, nothing erotic, just descriptions of people vomiting. And then you also have your general filth, which in this book includes poor hygiene. So, that is it for our content sample. We're going to jump right into a review now. I'm going to start off by saying what I've already said. This is just Under the Dome and The Mist if they had a baby. So I wouldn't say that this is more disturbing than Under the Dome. It is definitely grittier, if that makes sense, but I think it's pretty much on par with the disturbing level for Under the Dome. It is more violent than The Mist. It is more disturbing than The Mist. I don't know that it necessarily did those concepts better than The Mist or Under the Dome. I don't even know if it would be fair to say that, considering those were pretty much invented by Stephen King, or at least in that context. But anyway, just that's the end of me drawing comparisons to those stories, books, because you kind of got to get that out of the way first. I mean, it's very, very obvious. I knew even from reading the blurb this was going to be like Under the Dome. I didn't know it would be as much like The Mist as it is, but there we go. Something incredible. I loved the prose in this book. The general language that was used, the style, the sentences, they just hit. It's really hard to describe something as almost abstract as like the feeling that prose gives you, but it just hit. It was good. It was very, I don't want to say it was advanced because it wasn't necessarily advanced. It just, I liked the style. The style hit home with me and I enjoyed it a lot. And it was more advanced than something like Aaron Beauregard, leagues ahead of something like Aaron Beauregard. But I'm going to talk about this in more depth after the plot summary. But personally, I wish there was the book involves a lot of cosmic horror elements, and personally, I wish that we kind of dove into those a little bit more, or at least in a, and I'm going to talk about this, in a different manner than how it was done in the book, because the way that it's done in the book is a little bit eh, but I personally think it could have been done a little better. I personally think that it could have been explained a little more. In general, I like it when an author leaves a lot of elements of cosmic horror up to interpretation, but in this instance, it felt that a lot of it was just left up to reader interpretation, and a lot of it felt half baked, half finished, thrown at the wall to see what would stick. Again, I'm going to get into it a little more after the plot summary, but that's just kind of how I felt reading it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can tell you post summary. So we're going to get into our ratings now. This first set of numbers, where 5 is completely normal, not good, not bad, starts with plot and plot direction. I would give this a 7. I liked the plot. I liked the plot direction. There's really not more to be said. Nothing felt out of place. Nothing really felt forced. Again, conversations of the extreme horror. We will get to that. But overall, I thought the plot was very good. I enjoyed the plot. It was a new take on something like, I know I said I was going to stop comparing these, but it's kind of hard not to. It was a new take on something like The Mist or Under the Dome, and I enjoyed that. I'm going to give the tone a 4. Mostly it was completely fine, completely unassuming, it's completely normal. But there were a couple of times where it just kind of felt wishy-washy, and then there was one scene, again with the descriptions of the cosmic horror, that felt a little whiplashy. So 4 overall, very, very high 4, almost just completely normal, but a couple of things that dragged it down. Again, in a couple of scenes, the tone kind of went all over the place, just how it is sometimes. Characters and character development, I gave a 5. No issues, nothing extraordinary. I did enjoy the dynamic between our main character, Robbie, and his best friend, Russ, I want to say. I wrote his name down somewhere, but I don't have it in front of me. Russ, I want to say. I liked their dynamic. I liked his dynamic with his uh, girlfriend. Actually, now that I'm saying it, I'm going to up that to a 6. So that's a 6. It's actually pretty decent. The character development and dynamics are pretty decent. Grammar and typos, 5. I didn't notice any typos. There probably was one or two, just given this kind of literature, but didn't notice any. Weren't any strange uses of grammar. None of that. Felt very by the bar, or by the book, above bar, at bar, whatever. Dialogue also gave a 5. No complaints. Nothing felt weird or overly cringy, or nothing took me out of it. It all felt like I was listening to people talking. Nothing absolutely extraordinary that was like acting in a movie levels of like making me feel for the characters, but completely normal. Prose, which again is just the general writing in general, tautology, all right. It's just the structure of everything and the words that are used and the general feeling that the text imparts, all of that boiled together. It's a 7 in this one. As I said, I really did enjoy the prose in this for the most part. It was very good. It imparted, I think, the emotions that the, and it helped with the tone as well, but it imparted the emotions that I think that the author wanted to get across via the prose, via the tone, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. Sometimes when I'm talking, I feel like I'm just saying nothing. Like I plan out what I'm gonna say beforehand, but some of this just feels overly pretentious, and I'm definitely not trying to do that. It's just kind of hard to just sit here and say, I like the prose. The prose was good. I have a general idea of what I want to say about something like that, and then it just kind of comes out, and it doesn't always sound like I put much thought into it. It kind of just sounds like I'm vomiting words out. I promise you that's not what I'm not just trying to use filler words. I'm trying to get across my feelings on something, and sometimes when it's abstract like this, it's kind of hard to do. So,
I forgot to add personal enjoyment, but it was a 7.
the next two ratings are rated where 0 is completely normal. These are your gross out factor and disturbing factor ratings. For the disturbing factor, I would give this a 6. That's on par with something, and I do have a spreadsheet that I compare all of these to, but that's on par with something like Genital Grinder or uh shit, there was another one, but I've already forgotten it. It's on par with about how disturbing Genital Grinder was. Not right now. Again, you have to separate things that are gross and things that are actually disturbing out. Where because Genital Grinder is a lot of just over the top gross shit that's not really that disturbing. So if you can separate those two things in your head fully, it's about as disturbing as something like Genital Grinder. Gross out factor, I'm gonna give it a 0. Now it's a high 0, but it's a 0. There's not really anything gross in this at all. It's just disturbing. There's violence. There's death. Nothing gross. Nothing even remotely gross that I can even think of off the top of my head. But it's a high 0 still, just because of the presence of things like a vomit and people not taking showers. But it's still not even remotely gross, considering the other things that I've reviewed on this channel. Okay, that's your ratings done. Now we are going to jump into a plot summary. This is a major spoiler warning. If you do not want major plot points of the book spoiled for you, click off now. As always, the plot summary is not completely as robust as it could be. I leave out some details. It's mostly just the major things jumping from point to point so that I can tell you a variation of the story. If you were to read the book, there would be a lot of different things. It would be a lot more drawn out. It's a summary, okay? I am not retelling the entire book to you. So, in the beginning, which is how our book starts, our narrator, Robbie, discloses to us that he is writing a journal of all of the things that have happened in his little town in Virginia. He woke up one morning to find that the entirety of the small town was completely surrounded by thick darkness, almost like a wall of fog. It's kind of described as a wall of fog, but not really. It's almost like it appears like soup, but it's still air, kind of. Like it's not harder to move through, and it's not a fog, but it's like ink or soup. Some people, immediately after everyone wakes up and realizes, oh my god, something's gone horribly fucking wrong, they leave, either out of fear or because they are in denial about what is happening. They go to work, etc. They just don't, they ignore it. And their families quickly realize that they haven't come back. They probably won't come back. The firehouse calls a town meeting where they discuss the unfolding situation. They vow to send a couple of firefighters out to reach another town. Robbie, his girlfriend Christy, and their neighbor and friend Russ go to the edge of the darkness to see for themselves what the fuss is about. In the road, in the middle of the road, right where the darkness meets the non-darkness, there is a crude sigil drawn into the pavement with spray paint and surrounded in a square of salt, I think. They then stand there, and in the darkness, they each see something different. But for all three of them, it's a person. It's a person who is either dead or who is alive, but they haven't talked to in a long time, and the person means something to them, is important in their lives, or was important in their lives, rather. And this person calls to them and tells them to enter the darkness. They all realize, except for Russ, that what they're seeing is an illusion, and Robbie manages to stop Russ from wandering into the darkness. The two firefighters sent on the mission to the other town drive up to the trio. They try to stop them from leaving, but the firefighters laugh them off as crazy. And then as soon as they drive into the darkness, the group hears screams. As time goes on, things begin to get worse in the town. Robbie and Russ realize that something is making everyone angrier and crazier. They presume that the darkness is having some strange effect on the populace. People start dying via suicide and murder. Looting and rape become commonplace. Robbie realizes that someone needs to do something. He comes up with a plan for a group to travel out into the darkness with a rope tied around their waist. If that sounds familiar to you, don't worry, the author knew that that was familiar as well. He enlists the help of a street delinquent named T in gathering a crowd and convincing people to volunteer. The kid offers him and his group and makes a reference to the mist. Robbie and his group of volunteers travel to the darkness edge and stumble across another sigil. Dez, the local crazy homeless man, explains that he put the sigils there to keep the darkness out of the town. One of the women in the group, I believe her name is Annie, calls him a witch and a Satanist. She gets into a fight with Russ, vows revenge, and runs away. The group then carries out their plan. Two men and a few of the kids in T's group go first. Immediately, they begin screaming. Robbie watches as one of the kids, who is at the darkness's edge, is pulled into the darkness by tendrils of night, darkness, whatever. I'm using the word darkness a lot. I don't really know what else to call it. And subsequently, the kid is swallowed whole. The survivors pull the rope back into town and find it empty. Dez then runs up, chanting, and begins throwing salt at the tendrils of darkness which are trying to snake their way into the town. The tendrils retreat. T tries to attack Robbie, blaming him for his friend's death. And then as time continues to go on, things in the town continue to break down. Christy overhears a group of men talking about how they've been sadistically and brutally raping and murdering women. People in the streets start losing their minds, taking their clothes off, chanting to the skies. Murder becomes the norm in the town. There's just lots and lots of murder happening. Word gets around that T and Annie are beginning to preach to people, blaming the darkness on Dez and telling people that Robbie, Russ, and Christy must have helped him bring it into their town. Or to their town, rather. Robbie tracks down Dez in order to warn him, and then Dez gives him the lowdown on the situation. I don't remember how they get to talking about it. I think Robbie's like, oh, you seem to know a lot about this stuff, and you said you drew those sigils. What the fuck is happening? So here's what Dez tells our boy Robbie. God is real. Heaven and hell and demons and Satan are real. God made the universe by destroying an older one, and 13 powerful entities from the old universe swore revenge and now try to kill anything that they can in the new universe. They vow to essentially destroy all life in the new universe. The most powerful of these entities, which cannot be named, is the darkness. It was brought onto Earth because somebody said its name. The universe in this context is some sort of weird multiverse with different realms, heaven, hell, and then different like layers of like dimensions. So like a multiverse essentially. Des mentions that there are multiple Earths and that this has happened on multiple Earths before, that kind of thing. And this multiverse and realms and everything, they're all connected by something that Des refers to as the labyrinth, which seems to be some sort of maze that transcends space and time and that can take you to different dimensions and realms. Des is a possibly extra-dimensional wizard who was part of a group of 7 that believed they were the chosen 7 to destroy the 13. They were wrong. Nearly all of them died while fighting one of the 13, and Des was horrifically traumatized, which is why he's crazy. The darkness killed everything else on Earth. The only thing stopping the darkness at the town borders is the sigils and salt. There is no way to kill it or banish it. They are all doomed to die in the town. The darkness also attacked Mars, but some of the aliens were able to escape on presumably spaceships, presumably to repopulate the Earth. There's not... Okay, I'm presuming a lot in that last part, but that's like a conspiracy theory or part of other sci-fi that I've read and watched where a civilization on Mars dies and some of the people from that planet come to our planet and repopulate, and that's where humanity comes from. So I'm assuming by the fact that Des says that they escaped and then doesn't go into detail that they are the precursors to humanity, but I don't know that for certain. I'm assuming a lot there. Robbie then writes off most of what Des says as ramblings and leaves him to go back to his apartment. Soon after, T and Annie find and capture Des, then slowly lower him into a barrel of fire in front of Robbie's apartment, killing him brutally. Robbie and Christy and Russ draw up a plan to try to escape through the sewers based on something that Des said to Robbie about the barrier. Robbie said to Des something along the lines of, "Your fucking magic circle," because he was getting impatient with the guy, right? And Des says, "It's not a circle, it's a square. It surrounds the whole town and goes up into the sky." So therefore, they believe that the darkness might not be under the earth, and they plan to escape through a sewer system. How much will that work, considering you're dealing with a cosmic entity beyond all human understanding? You're just going to run by it through the sewers. Cool. Robbie says goodbye or writes goodbye and signs off saying with the normal like book drama of like, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead, that kind of shit. So that's the book. That's the story. Let's talk about that cosmic horror shit a little bit. Huh? At the end of the book, during the big reveal about the origin of the darkness, it kind of seems like Keene is throwing whatever he can against the wall to see what will stick. I mean, it had like literally everything. You got your biblical, like cosmic horror shit. There were, okay, 2 of the 13 are named Leviathan and Behemoth. There's mentions of God and demons and Satan and heaven and hell. You have your weird sci-fi shit with like descriptions of alien civilizations and tech and people on Mars and escaping planets. And you have fantasy stuff, mages and magic and bands of the few chosen to save all of creation, that kind of shit. It's a fuck ton, and it results in tonal whiplash, kind of, because the general tone of the book is very dark and gritty, and I don't know, it just has that quintessential extreme horror feel where it's a little bit above normal disturbing. It's like descriptions, like the author does not shy away from descriptions of graphic violence just in the background. If you kind of get what I mean, it's a little it's gritty is really the best way to put it. It's gritty. And the description that Des gives to Robbie is just kind of fantastical, not even referring to the fact that he's talking about fantasy stuff. It just it's just a lot. It's like a wall of noise. And it is a narration, so there is back and forth between Des and Robbie, and there is in the middle of the narration, the normal tone does kind of bleed back into what Des is saying. Like he goes on this rant about how he's like a magical wizard and there's like a labyrinth surrounding all of the universe. And then he talks about how the 13 took one of his friend's heads and blew his best friend apart and he tried to put him back together but couldn't and his hands got all slippery. Like so it does kind of bleed back into it and then Robbie rants and raves at him and is like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Can you get to the goddamn point?" So it just it's kind of back and forth. It's not like super egregious or anything. It's not like we're going from Sunshine and Roses to Gotham, if that makes sense, but it's still kind of whiplashy. And banking off of that, there was a decent amount of cosmic horror magic shit throughout the book that was left for the reader to fill in. Now, I did say that I wish some of it was they went into certain things in more detail and it kind of trying to pinpoint that like that feeling. I think it just is that he threw so much shit out there. Like even Dez is even like, oh, that's not even like you can't understand this. That's just the beginning. What about the deep and heaven and then he mentions something else that I don't remember. Like it just like you're just throwing a whole bunch of shit and I wish you could have stuck with certain details and went into more detail with them instead of just 50,000 different things. But there were things throughout the book that were left up to reader interpretation in a good way. I think I wrote down an example. So Des, being a wizard, wrote a sigil, has a sigil on his door. And Robbie can't open the door. And then Des comes up and opens the door and is like, it won't open for anyone that doesn't know. And then Robbie enters and he makes a comment in the journal about how it felt like the darkness was lifted, like there wasn't darkness. And then we get the reveal that the darkness is a living thing, so it's very easy for the reader to connect the dots that the darkness can't enter the hut. The hut is the little shack that Des lives in is safe from the darkness, essentially. So it's just little things like that. It's not like you have to jump like through 70 hoops to understand what the fuck the author is saying. It's more like there's two dots and you can just connect them. And I just like that. I like that it gives the reader the benefit that he'll be able to connect what is being said. Another thing, just general connections and foreshadowing. There's a lot of references to things earlier in the text. Just good old fashioned like motifs and foreshadowing and connections and stuff. So mentions of the number 13, that happens a lot. Mentions of the number 7 with the chosen 7, and then there's a really fucking weird scene with a guy ballooning animals in groups of 7 into the darkness to see what will happen. I mentioned that at the beginning. There's a description of one of the 13 early on, and then we later find out that that is one of the 13. There's mentions of the sewer throughout the book. So just good old fashioned motif foreshadowing, all that jazz. I like that shit. I like classic literary moves like that. There's not a lot of that in extreme horror, so I was happy to see it here. It's nothing over the top, it's nothing pretentious, but it gives credit to the reader to be able to connect these things, and I always appreciate that. Anything else? Yeah, I think that's about it. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your notification bell. I release videos every Friday, or at least I'm trying to. The next book that I'm reading is The Lost by Jack Ketchum. I don't think I'm going to be reviewing that one. I am less than halfway through it. It is 400 pages, and it's just kind of fucking like it feels like I'm reading air. It's not necessarily bad. It's just I just don't give a fuck. It's just nothing, if that makes sense. Like there's no substance. It feels weightless in my head. So might not have a video next Friday, depending on how long that takes me to read, because I'll have to read that, shelve it, and then read another one, assuming that it doesn't get really fucking dark, which it might. I skimmed around a little bit. It seems like it might. Anyway, every Friday for the most part. As always, my opinions are my opinions and my opinions alone. I would highly recommend that you read this book. I liked the book. 7 on the personal enjoyment meter. That's pretty fucking good. I liked it. I think you should read it. There's a link in the description to where you can buy it. Form your own opinions. That's always great. Is that it? I can't think of anything else. Yeah. All right. See ya.